Small Towns and the Rivers. The poem Small Towns and the Rivers is written by Mamang Dai, a writer from northeast India. It is a nature poem but with a difference that while celebrating nature around her hometown, the poet also laments the destruction of that nature to make way for the lifeless small towns along the river. The poem consists of 7 stanzas or unequal length and is written in one free verse, which means that it does not have a rhyme scheme. In fact, the poet begins by narrating the flip side of the small towns, situated amidst trees which remind her of death with their flying dust and howling wind. She treats life and death as transient, but the nature and rituals are permanent. The river has a predominant presence in her poem. It is depicted as the one alongside which lie numerous small towns, the one with a soul, the one which knows, the one which brings grief to inhabitants of the towns in summer, and the one which knows about the immortality of its water. She speaks of life during childhood, full of happiness, transitioning into the latter life of anxiety, as symbolized by the growth of the small towns by the river. The lines are short and the river verses are lucid. The poet has used poetic devices like alliteration, antithesis, inversions, metaphor, onomatopoeia, personification, repetition, similes, and transferred epithets to beautify the poem. The extensive use of personification can be seen in the animate, human or human qualities attributed to the river. The river has a soul, it holds its breath, and the river known. The traditional belief and the souls of the dead dwell in the nature and rise with the sun. The cold bamboo that springs back with the sunlight and the significance of the same in life. Form imagery in the poem. The depiction of the towns during the summer and winter seasons adds to the visual imagery of the poem. The elaborate descriptions of the river as a living entity also makes for the special feature of imagery used by the poet. The main message of the poem is the conveying of the poet's mixed, almost antithetical feelings about nature and the small towns which lie by the river. While the poet employs nature to imply positivity, she looks upon the small towns as symbols of death since they have all grown at the cost of nature. Overall, the poem is an interesting read and I like it for its curious mix of the positive and negative aspects.